Hello viewers, good to have you again at this time. And now we are looking at likely WAEC Economics questions. Please come with me. Point within a production possibility curve, PPC, indicates. In one of our earliest videos, we did a deep analysis on PPC, production possibility, and I showed them this way. Assuming this is your PPC curve, any point along this curve, right, is the optimum point, okay, which means all the available resources are fully utilized. Remember, when you talk about PPC, we are talking about your ability to produce two products, right, with the available resources and get the best ultimate out of them. And any point like A that is inside the curve, within the curve, we say that it is attainable, but there is inefficient production level. All the available resources are not fully utilized. And when we come up here, outside, like B, outside the curve, we said all the resources are fully utilized. There's efficient production level at this point. They are all fully utilized. In fact, at this point, we now experience growth. And when this growth is properly sustained and managed, it will eventually lead to what? Development. Remind you, there's a difference between economic growth and, of course, economic development. So this question is talking about the points within, that is inside, this one is inside. That what does it indicate? Optimum production levels, that is along the curve, I just said it now. Attainable, of course, but inefficient production levels, right? Which means all the resources are not fully engaged, right? Unattainable production levels, attainable and efficient production levels. The answer here is attainable but inefficient production level inside the production possibility curve. Option B is the answer. All right. Which of the following is not a feature of labor? Remember, labor is one of the factors of production. All right, that's a human effort. And of course, labor is active because it's engaged in the process of production, whether to operate the machines or to be in the process of production or any stage of production. And of course, the wages is the reward for what? Or salary for labor. So let's see. So which one is not a feature of labor? Labor is active factor? Yes. Is highly mobile? Yes. The reward is wages or salary? Yes. Its efficiency depends on size, not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's not the size of labor that determines what? The efficiency or the output that is being generated. So option D is not a good statement as regards labor. It's not a feature of labor. Option D. We'll go to the next question. Balance of payments problem can be corrected through, one of the questions we answered in our previous session was talking about when a country has what? Balance of payment surplus. What steps should that country take? At that point, the answer we picked was that the country should encourage imports, import promotion, so as to balance the payments, all right? But in this case, the country like Nigeria we're having at the moment, we're having balance of payment problem. So what are we supposed to do to correct it? Increasing foreign reserve, increasing domestic borrowing, import promotion strategy, export promotion strategies. The answer is what? Option D, export promotion strategy. Why? When we export, we begin to what? To receive. We have what they call receipts. We begin to receive. And as we receive, we earn more. And as we earn, our economy improves. But when you continue to import, which is M, what do? You do payment. You pay. And the more you are paying, the lesser your economy is doing, unless you're even having surplus. So the answer here is option D, export promotion. Okay? A debenture holder is. Who is a debenture? A debenture is a creditor to the company or to the investment. So they gave you the money you are using to run your business, and you're expected to pay them a fixed interest. The interest is fixed, okay, because they are creditors to the company. Option C is the correct answer. Okay? When the production possibility curve shifts outwards, the economy experience, I just explained that now, outwards, that's outwards of the curve, somewhere here, B, like the previous one I drew. We experience what? I explained that earlier, growth. You experience growth. There will be economic growth. And when this growth is sustained and well managed, then it can lead to what? Development. But it's possible for a country to experience growth and not experience development when it's not sustainable or not managed properly. All right? Option A, of course, is good to go. If a 6% decrease in price result in more than 6% decrease in quantity supply, more than, mind you, more than, okay? As there's a decrease, there's more than decrease in supply. So what do you say? Supply can be regarded as what? Elastic, unitary elastic, permanently inelastic, permanently elastic. Is what? Is elastic. Is elastic because a drastic change leads to what? A more drastic change. So supply is elastic. Option A. Option A. Changes. Okay? Let's move to the next question. Scale of preference is important for the following reasons, except. What is scale of preference? Scale of preference is an arrangement of human wants according to how important or in order of priority they are to the consumer. Mind you, my own scale of preference cannot be the same thing with your own because what I prefer may not be what you prefer. My choice may not be your choice. Okay? So, why is it important? Satisfying wants, of course. When you draw your scale of preference, it helps you to satisfy your wants, right? Making rational. What rational wants? This is an incomplete statement. Making optimal allocation of resources, yes. Using scarce resources efficiently, yes. Okay, so the only option that is odd here is option B, making rational, is an incomplete statement. Assuming they are put making rational decision, yeah, it's also going to be correct. All right, because when you're asking a preference, you're able to make the right decision. But as long as that decision is not there, it becomes the odd one out. Option B is the answer for this particular question. A consumer with $10 needs a dress, a pair of shoes, a handbag, and of course a jewelry costing $20, $10, $7, and of course $3 respectively. The opportunity cost of buying the pair of shoes is, what is the opportunity cost? The opportunity cost in economics is the foregone alternative. In fact, in economics, we call it the real cost. Or in my own language, I like to say the sacrifice you made for your satisfaction. The sacrifice you made for your satisfaction. So, opportunity cost is not actually the price you paid. The opportunity cost is the real product that's left behind. All right, the sacrifice you made for your satisfaction. So, if this young man chooses to buy a pair of shoes, what is the opportunity cost? The opportunity cost is those products it left on board, which is the handbag, the jewelry, and possibly what you get in that zone, and possibly the dress. Okay, but the only option that have that here is what? The handbag, because it follows simultaneously to the shoe, the next to the shoe, the handbag and the jewelry. Okay, those are the opportunity costs. Mind you, we couldn't choose the other one that is 20. Why? Because in the first place, his money cannot buy 20. So there's no way we can pick what? A dress. The dress is $20 and it has for $10. So in the first place, the dress cannot be an opportunity cost because by its available resources, it cannot afford the dress. But with resources, it can afford both the handbag and the jewelry. But because it has to make choice for shoes, so he has to forego two of them. So handbag and jewelries are the opportunity cost. So the option C, of course, is the correct answer. Option A cannot be correct because you couldn't afford to buy. Option B is an incomplete option. And option D, dresses they cannot afford to buy. So option C is the most correct answer. Okay? In a market economy, the problem of what goods to produce is solved primarily by what is a market economy? A market economy is capitalist economy, an economic system where individuals, private individuals, decide what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. They have access to resources and they manage these resources. That's capitalist free economy, or you call it laissez-faire. Liberal economy, free economy, laissez-faire, market economy, or capitalist economy, where private individuals, the bourgeoisies, are in charge. All right? So, how did they solve this problem primarily? Directives of the government, it can be. This is only applicable to socialism, socialist economy, a command economy. That's a command economy. The pattern of consumer spending, yes. In other words, what are those goods that the consumers are buying? What are they demanding for? What are their tastes? What are their fashion? What are their choices? This is what we call consumers. These are what consumers spend their money on. So this will be the concentration of a producer, a private investors. You want to know what are the things people are demanding for. What are the goods or services they like? What are their fashion or tastes? What are their choices? Producers of consumer goods, people producing what they want. The correct answer to this question is the pattern of consumers spending. What are they spending their money on? A private investor wants to know that so as to know what to produce. Very well. The next question. Which of the following is not a function of an insurance company? Pooling resources together is not, which means all of them are functions of insurance. Okay, only one is not. Pooling resources together against risk. You know that insurance has to do with what? How to minimize risk or to support risk when they happen. That's what insurance is all about. Mobilizing of funds through premiums collected. They collected premiums from the people, all right? And make it a pool of funds for them to arrest every risk. Encouragement of investment by security of capital, yes. Collection of deposits from the public for investment. Insurance companies don't collect deposits. The only organization that collect deposits is the banks. Banks collect deposits for customers for investment. So by so doing, option D is off as regards this question, and that is the answer to the question. Option D. They don't collect deposit. That is for the banks. But this we are talking about insurance company. Okay? Which of the following is not emphasized in a production possibility curve? We just did a little analysis about PPC. Now, scarcity of resources, yes. Economic development, inefficiency in the use of resources, unemployment of labor. This, when labor are not fully engaged, they become underutilized. All right? So if you notice, when I was explaining that curve I drew, in about 2 or 3 questions we answered, I said, what we experience in PPC is growth. It is over the time when the growth is sustained in the long run and technological advancement is added and proper management of resources, then it may lead toward development. And I also mentioned earlier that a country can experience growth but not experiencing development. So economic development is not emphasized in PPC, production possibility curve. Option B is good to go for this question. An increase in supply means that when supply increases, what does it mean? The seller is ready to sell more. But in selling more, he may have to sell at various prices. Because if the supply becomes too much than the demand, what happens? The price will be forced to fall based on the law of supply. Are you there? So what will happen when supply increase? More is sold at different prices, more is sold at the same price. There's a leftward shift of the supply curve. There's a movement along the supply curve. The answer is what? More is sold at different prices. Okay? The seller is ready to sell at different prices based on negotiation power of the consumers or the buyers. Option A is good to go for this question. An outward shift of the production possibility curve shows that I've explained this earlier. I think this question is being repeated in another form, in another year. Okay? Production is shifting to the left, resources are underutilized. When it's outward, economic growth has taken place, factors of production are moving forward. That is out. This is out. Option B, out here. This point, outside. That is growth. This is growth. Yes, everything will fully utilized, and the country or the economy is good to go. So economic growth has taken place. Option C. We answer a question similar to this in another year. Economic growth has taken place. Option C is the correct answer. Let's see the next question. Which of the following is not a feature of socialism? What is socialism? I mentioned that like socialist, which means command economy, an economic system where government or the states, or you say the public, control all the available resources and decide provide solution to the problems we want to produce, how to produce, and want to produce. Everything is the hand of the government or the state represented by the public. All right? So let's show you. So which of this is not a feature of that kind of economy? Which means 3 of them are feature, only 1 is not. Let's see. Collective ownership of productive resources. Since it's the hand of the state, the government, there's collectivism. Okay? Freedom of enterprise. This cannot be, because this is an element of capitalism. In fact, another name for capitalism is what? Free enterprise, laissez-faire. All right? Production is not based on profit motive. When there's socialism, it is not profit motive, but service motive. Government motive is to provide services to the people, welfare services, okay, to the people. Maximization of public welfare, okay? So C and D are synonymous in a sense. So the correct answer to this question is option B. Option B is only applicable to capitalist economy. Laissez-faire, free enterprise. Okay? Let's see the next question. A monopolist may enjoy abnormal profit only if, another one for abnormal profit is super normal profit, above normal. All right? So how can you enjoy above normal profit or super normal profit? When MC exceeds revenue, when demand curve is perfectly elastic, when expenditure on advertisement increases, that's not make sense. When price exceeds average total cost, when his price is greater than his average total cost. Average total cost is what you spend on each product. In other words, his price is even more than his cost on each product. That is abnormal profit, which means if you produce 10, you can imagine how much it's going to make on 10, because his price is higher than what he spent to produce just only 1. Just only 1. Okay? So the abnormal profits when price exceed average total cost. All right? But if it's normal, its normal profit is when total revenue is greater than what? Total cost. What you generate, what you receive is more than what you spend. All right? That's normal profit. But when it's talking about abnormal profit, your price is greater than your what? Average total cost. Average, that's what you spend on each of those. When you share it total by the number. Option D is the correct answer. When a community market operates without government interference, commodities are distributed through, in other words, government is not involved, right? You allow the market to operate on its own. What do you call that? It's through what? Government distribution agent already said from the question, it said government is not involved. So there's no way government agency must be involved. So A is contradicting the question. The operation of price mechanism. What is price mechanism? Another for price mechanism is price system. Price system, which means not fixing price, but allowing the price to be fixed by the interaction of what? Of the forces of demand and supply. Interaction of the forces of demand and supply. So you don't fix price. That's price mechanism. C, a central planning committee. Why are you planning? Central planning has to do with government control, regulation, retailers only. What does that got to do with this? So the correct answer is when you leave it for the operation of price mechanism. The invisible, in economy we call them the invisible ends. The invisible ends in the market that determine the price, which is what? The demand and the supply. Option B is the correct answer. Price mechanism. The concept of opportunity cost also referred to as, I already mentioned this earlier, social cost, real cost, fiscal cost, variable cost. The answer is what? Real cost. The real cost, which means the sacrifice you made for your satisfaction, the real cost. Very well. The next question. In a market economy, the problem of one goods to produce so bad. What is market economy? We mentioned that earlier. Is laissez-faire economy, free enterprise economy, capitalist economy, okay, liberal or open economy, right? So I've explained that is controlled by private individuals. Oh, we will answer the question that then. I think the question is repeated another year. The answer is what? The pattern of consumers spending. In other words, what are the requests? What are the choices? What are the fashion? What are the interests? What are the demands of the consumer? What are they spending their money on? That should be what you produce, so as for you to make your money back. Option B. B is the correct answer. All economic systems, whether laissez-faire, socialist, capitalist, command economy, or mixed economy, decide what to produce because resources are not available. No. Consumers want maximum satisfaction, maybe. Resources are limited in supply. Producers want maximum profit. The correct answer is this. Whether you are socialist or capitalist or mixed economy, you have to decide what to produce. The reason being that resources are limited in supply. This has always been a major problem, and that's the essence of economy. A situation whereby limited resources chasing after unlimited wants. So option C is the correct answer. I hope you're enjoying this class. Please subscribe to the channel, share the links with your friends so they can also learn from you from here. Cooperative society are formed mainly to, why do you form cooperative society? I'm privileged to be a secretary to a cooperative society in my place of work. Okay, why was it formed? To break monopolies of private companies, to encourage thrift and credit among members, to assist producers to maximize their profit, to promote and maintain the welfare of members. The answer is what? To encourage credit and thrift. You save money for rainy day, and when you need credit facility, you need loan, you take loan, whether ×2 of what you have or ×3, depending on the law that guides your own cooperative society for whatever you want to do. All right, so the option B, encourage thrift and credit among members, is the super answer. Okay? Which of the following is not a method of controlling monopoly? You know a monopoly? A monopoly is when only one producer or one company has access or right to produce a particular product. It controls the price, it controls the quantity. It's a monopoly, right? So, how do you think, which of this method is not possible to control? It's not, which means all this method can control monopoly except one. Preventing mergers. What is mergers? Coming together or two or more companies to form one. They become strong, big, and large, and then they become monopoly. So you are running away from monopoly and you are encouraging merger, you see run to monopoly. Indigenization. What is indigenization? Indigenization is involvement of local content in a particular company, involving the locals, the cities, indigenes of a country in businesses, possibly operating by the foreigners. Okay? Privatization. When you privatize, eventually you are going to open doors for what? For monopoly, and then imposing high profit tax. If you impose tax on them, eventually they will see what? Directly back to what? To the consumer indirectly. Okay? So which of the following is not a method of controlling monopoly? Is indigenization. Indigenization is not controlling monopoly. This high profit tax is a way of curtailing the excesses of monopoly, but indigenization is not. Indigenization is the involvement of locals, of people, indigenes, in foreign business, involving local content in the business operating in a society. You know, that is indigenization. It has nothing to do with a monopoly. Okay? So, C, we can see for now. Which of the following measures can be adopted to stabilize the external value of the local currency? At the moment, our local currency in Nigeria is Naira, and it's not doing well in exchange for foreign currencies like dollars, like pounds, and euro. Okay, so what do you think we can do to address that? Reduce volume of exports, increase demand for imports, increase domestic money supply, reduce demand for imports. What we can do is two. One, increase or encourage exports. Let us start exporting. So what do we have to export? When we start exporting, then we start receiving, our receipt increase, and our value of our currency will increase. Alternatively, you reduce imports, which is option D. Reduce demand for import. Encourage local consumption of local goods instead of demanding for imported items. But that's very difficult in Nigeria because Nigerians, we have high taste for imported goods. So I'm not sure, I don't know how government will drive it. No matter how they put high tax on imported items, Nigeria will still struggle to get it. But what we are supposed to do is to reduce the demand for import. Option D is the correct answer. The profit of a producer is the difference between, I think I mentioned this earlier, all right? The difference between what? Total revenue and total cost. That gives you what? The profit of a producer. But if you are looking for a abnormal profit is where? Is where his price is greater than what? His average total cost. That is abnormal, supernormal profit. But profit is TR minus TC, which is what? Option B, total revenue and total cost. The difference is the profit. Or the total money you spend and the total money you receive. Just find the difference, that is your profit. It's a simple mathematics and simple logic. Fiscal policy is associated with, anytime you see that fiscal, your mind should go to what? Tax. And of course, government spending, government expenditures. Okay? So fiscal policy is associated with what? Taxation and government expenditure. The current government in Nigeria is applying this. In fact, there's a new tax law that is taking effect from January 2026. All right? It has been restructured. So we're waiting for that, such a way to make as many people as everybody is not dragged into the tax net. Both the high and the mighty, the low, everybody is dragged to the tax net, just as it's been done in abroad. You cannot escape tax in Nigeria from January 2026. You try doing that, you're going to pay fine. You know, that's happening abroad. In a civilized country, you pay your tax as a window. You know, people are willing to pay tax abroad because they could see what the government uses the money to do. They enjoy the facilities, infrastructures in our society. But we, Nigerians, are skeptical. That even after paying this heavy tax, what will the money be used for? For their own personal gains, to travel more abroad for medical and all those stuff for tourism. Okay? So option A is the correct answer. In order to stabilize oil price in the world market, there is a need for OPEC members to, OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, is an international organization that is set up to regulate all activities that has to do with what? Production of crude oil in the world. Okay? So, what is the need for OPEC? That's what we are talking about. Why should I be a member of OPEC? Always have budget deficits, encourage competition among themselves, adhere to production quotas, fixed price of non-oil products. What does a non-oil product got to do with this? The correct answer is what? Adhere to production quotas. Every country, member state, has a quota. I think Nigeria is about 2.1 or 2.2 million barrels per day, BPS. Okay? The reason why they do that is to regulate supplies in the market. Because if members don't keep to this, it doesn't mean that Nigeria cannot produce more than 2.1 or 2.2. We could produce as much as 3 million barrels. Okay, but if all members are producing to their capacity every day to the market, then there will be too much of oil in the market and the price will be forced to fall. And then you won't be able to make enough profits from it. So regulate, they are expecting all members to adhere to production quotas. The quantity you expected to pump or release to the world market per day. They call it barrel per day, right? BPD. In order to stabilize oil price, okay, that is what we just answered now. Option C is the correct answer. The next question, a measure of the value of money in an economy is how do you know the value of money in an economy? Size of workers, general price, total level of savings, total amount of loans granted by the banks is off. The answer is what? Option B, the general price level. General price level. That's why you talk about inflation or deflation. Okay? Option B is the correct answer. Where a commodity takes an insignificant proportion of the consumer's income, demand for it will be what? Insignificant means not a big deal. Very low, very small. Not a big deal. It's what you can just go by. You understand? So if such commodity takes just very low, just very minimal, very small stuff from your income, what will happen to the demand for it? Unity elastic, price inelastic, fairly inelastic, income inelastic. Huh? The answer will be what? Price inelastic. Do you know why? You will not need to buy more of it because it's just there. For instance, salt. Let's look at salt, for instance. Will you say because your income has increased to buy more of salt? Not necessary. Not necessary. Okay, because how much is salt? The price of salt is significant. You can just buy it and continue. Even when you increase the price, you still buy. Because the increase, you don't need to buy too much of it. Just very minimal, very small of it. All right, price inelastic. All right, because of the income inelastic, and it depends on the consumer. All right, so move on to the next one. The production strategy used in an overpopulated country. When a country is overpopulated, what do you mean by being overpopulated in a country? It means that the population is far higher than the national income, the GDP. The population is far higher than the available resources. Okay, so when you have a situation like that, what kind of strategy are you going to use for your production? Import substitution, capital intensive, labor intensive, first come, first employ. No, you use labor intensive. Then engage more people. Use labor instead of machine. Because if you use machine, only few will be engaged. But when you use labor, more will be engaged. In labor intensive. You apply labor intensive as a strategy in an overpopulated. That is why in China, notwithstanding of their machineries and their discoveries of new technologies, many of their guys still use what? Labors, because of their population. There are so many. So everybody's engaged in one thing or the other with new discoveries of technology here and there. Labor intensive option C is good to go. In a capitalist system, the means of production is owned and controlled by, I've explained this over and over again, private individuals. Option C, private individuals. Okay, I think at this point we are going to stop for today. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you have any question, you can always send it to us. We'll find time to attend to them. I'll also advise you, share the link with your friends so they can also enjoy what you enjoy. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm sure you enjoyed the content you just watched. To see more episodes as that, preparing you for your oncoming exams, smash the subscribe button on this channel right now and visit the playlist that we've made for you, covering over 50 type of different exams, including JAMB, WAEC, Cacao,